Welcome to an IBM Operational Decision Manager demonstration. This demonstration will show you the new Decision Governance Framework introduced with IBM ODM version 8.5. IBM Operational Decision Manager is the next generation business rules supporting the three smarter process pillars. ODM is instant and able to automate and govern business decisions for mission-critical applications, making decisions at internet speed. ODM is seamless, integrating operational decisions across various channels and across line of business and IT. ODM is insightful and can personalize individual decisions using any available information or customer data. The new release of IBM ODM version 8.5 introduces the Decision Governance Framework. This new framework is a built-in capability of the Decision Center, supporting an end-to-end governance methodology. At any step of the decision update process, business users perform policy updates in a secure, reliable, and traceable governance flow. Through the Decision Governance Framework, business policy updates are simple, safe, and managed. The new Decision Governance Framework allows policy updates to be performed in release cycles, in which many actions are controlled and tracked. Updates can only be deployed after release is completed and approved. In the Decision Governance Framework, your business decisions are seen as decision services. Let's use a pricing decision as an example. A decision service has various releases, each of them being a specific version of the rules composing the decision. In our demonstration, we will have a spring release, a summer release, and a recovery release to perform last-minute updates. Every release has an owner and approvers. The release can't be deployed until it has been fully approved. Work inside releases is organized into activities. Change activities will allow rules to be modified. A change activity has an owner, authors to perform the changes, and approvers to validate the work performed inside the activity. Every activity has its own approval cycle. Release validation is performed in validation activities. Similar to before, validation activities have an owner and approvers, and this time they have testers in charge of performing validation tasks. Validation activities also have their own approval cycles. A release cycle may involve several activities and will be completed when all activities are approved. The Decision Governance Framework is available in Decision Center, and business users can interact with the governance flow from the Business Console. Testing and simulation, as well as release and deployment, are performed in the Enterprise Console. In this demonstration, the Decision Governance Framework is used to update a pricing policy implemented within ODM for an online car insurance quotation application. The quotation process starts by getting the driver information. All this data is used by the rules concerning eligibility, and then finally to make a price estimation online. The second step is to get the vehicle info that will also be used for the quotation. Finally, the insurance coverage is selected by the prospecting customer. Clicking on the Submit button triggers the various IBM Operational Decision Manager decision services. We will focus on the pricing decision for the Decision Governance Framework demonstration. The prospect is eligible for the selected insurance product, and the rules have also made a quote regarding the customer profile for each of the selected insurance items. We can see the details of the quotation. For example, the comprehensive base premium price is $48. A decision table is responsible for giving the base premium price in that example. Now let's see how the relevant business policies can be updated by business users. Rachel is a pricing analyst from New Jersey. From her homepage in the IBM ODM Business Console, she can see a note from Barbara, the pricing manager, asking for some pricing updates due to an important deficit in New Jersey. From the Work tab, new to IBM ODM version 8.5, Rachel can see she is assigned to a change activity in the Decision Governance Framework. Opening the activity, the Goal section on the right helps assignees to understand what tasks they have to perform from within this change activity. Links to the Enterprise Console directly point the user to a simulation report, helping them understand where the deficit problem is and what rules are to be created or updated. The deficit is in New Jersey for sedan cars on the comprehensive coverage as indicated by the graph. To compensate for the deficit, Rachel decides to create a new business rule for comprehensive products in New Jersey after she searches through the existing rules in the repository. After naming the new rule, she can use the IntelliRule editor to guide her step by step in the task of rule authoring. The IntelliRule editor is an in-place automatic completion editor using contextual information. The user receives possible next terms to use depending on what is already typed in and based on predefined grammar and business vocabulary. The rule is written in English-like syntax statements, making it easy to understand what the rule will do and when it will be fired. Completing the rule becomes similar to defining the business requirements and policies that business users already do, but now they will execute directly. Once Rachel is done with authoring her rule, she changes the status of the rule from draft to define to confirm that she is done with authoring that particular rule. Rachel can now document the rule itself and save the rule in the decision repository. Now that she is finished with the policy update, Rachel commits her work by notifying the Decision Governance Framework she has completed her activity or task. This will allow the governance flow to proceed to the next stage. Now, Barbara, the pricing manager, logs into the business console. From the home page, she can see that a new rule has been created by Rachel. In addition, from the activity stream, Barbara can also see the team's actions on the rules she is responsible for. Barbara, being the owner of the change activity, can set the activity to approval mode when ready. This will allow the activity's approvers to verify the changes performed by activity participants such as Rachel. As Barbara is also the activity approver, she can start looking at what Rachel did to the rules. To rapidly see all the updates performed in a change activity, Barbara can compare the current state of the rules to the initial snapshot automatically created when the activity was instantiated. The side-by-side comparison shows that one rule has been added during the change activity. In one click, Barbara can see the rule and validate its content. Since Barbara is satisfied with the new rule, she considers the work complete. Barbara will go ahead and mark the changes performed by Rachel in that particular change activity as approved, and now the change activity is completed and locked. Paul, the business analyst, is in charge of validating rule impact to the business perspective. From the Work tab, after logging into the business console, he can see a validation activity has been assigned. In one click, he can access the predefined test plan for that validation activity. The first item in the validation plan is to test the rules to make sure the unit tests and integrity tests are fulfilled. These tests are performed from the Enterprise console. Paul uses the predefined test suite that will run different scenarios on these new rules and compare results with the expected ones. If the result is not the expected one, the test will fail for that particular scenario. Now that the tests are complete, the report shows that all the tests passed successfully, and the changes that Rachel made are not violating any integrity checks. In order to document the results, Paul will get a link for the test report and come back to the business console to edit his test plan. This will allow reviewers to check validation outcomes before closing the activity and validating the overall release. In his results, Paul will insert a link to provide direct access to the test reports in the Enterprise console. The next validation item is to simulate rule executions. This test aims to validate that the changes performed by Rachel are producing the expected business outcome. To do so, Paul will run a simulation in the Enterprise console. The simulation uses real past execution data stored in the ODM decision warehouse as input to the new candidate rule. This allows Paul to evaluate the new candidate rule's results on real data and measure the impact on predefined key performance indicators, or KPIs, before the rule is deployed on the production system. The simulation report is now available, and after testing the new rules over 300 past executions, Paul can see that there are no more deficits observed in New Jersey, indicated by a negative bar. Once again, he will take the link from the Enterprise console and go back to the business console to document his results. Paul has now completed all of his specified tests in the test plan, and now he can move the validation activity status forward to finished, and the decision governance framework will move forward. Returning back to the business console, Barbara, the pricing manager, can see from the activity stream that Paul has performed all the validation tests and completed his work on the activity. As the owner of this validation activity, Barbara decides to move the activity to approval mode so that the reviewer can proceed with final activity commitment. Here again for our demo, Barbara is the only approver for that particular activity, and so she can easily access the test and simulation reports and review Paul's work. First, the test plan to see that no regressions, and second, the simulation, followed by the ability to compare side by side with the previous simulation report to check for any improvement. Looks good, so Barbara will approve the changes. and that approves the overall activity and moves the decision governance framework forward. Since all activities are now complete, the release owner, also Barbara, will move the release to ready for approval status. Before completing the final approval of the overall release that will allow it to be deployed to production, Barbara wants to perform a final validation comparing the release with its initial snapshot. Here again, the initial snapshot was automatically generated when the release was created. The content all looks good, and so Barbara will go ahead and approve this release. In our final role, Adam is our rule administrator. One of Adam's responsibilities is to deploy the decisions to the decision server. He decides to perform this task from the Enterprise console. After selecting the right decision service, he can deploy a new version of the rule app containing all pricing rules. Adam can select the new decision service how it will be versioned in the execution server, and then select the specific decision server from the dropdown. In this case, just the generic rule execution server. Once the deployment is finished, the new policies have been deployed to the production server, and of course this is for demonstration purposes only, and the next execution will invoke the new benefit rules created by Rachel. Now let's go back to our demonstration website and submit the exact same data, including, as we had before, a New Jersey sedan. But this time we should get a different quotation value given our new rules. And as we can see, the new rule that Rachel authored indeed did fire and directly impact the pricing decision service result. During this demonstration, we saw the new decision governance framework in action, including how business users can release decision updates, an intro to change and validation activities, how all user actions are secured with a role-based approval process, and how people can be assigned to specific tasks depending on their responsibilities. Finally, we saw how the decision governance framework brings true transparency in how operations are performed and complete traceability at all stages of the business rule change cycle. Thank you for your time.